Welcome to Earthmother, Starchild. My name's Natasha Astara, and I'm a spiritual artist and clairvoyant. And today I have with me Melanie Henry, who is a healer, coach, guide, and is coming today to have an interview about her work, which she does some wonderful healing work. Hello, Melanie.
Hello.
It's lovely to have you with me today.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. So tell us a little bit, Melanie, about the work you do and about yourself.
Well, I do one-to-one sessions with people, and it's a form of energy healing. But what I sort of trained in and has come to me is I have Reiki, NLP, and then the emotion code. So what I've done is kind of taken elements from all three of those modalities and put them together within my sessions to help people, so I can pull on different things for different people.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And what is the emotion code? Because I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, well, it's a technique you use to release trapped emotions. So there's quite a few things it does. It can release inherited emotions that has been passed down to us from our DNA and our bloodline, usually from the mother bloodline. There's trapped emotions that we pick up along our own lifetime that become trapped. We also can put up a heart wall, which is if we've been hurt, we put up this energetic field across our heart, which stops us from getting hurt. But what it does, it blocks everybody off from you or opportunities. So I can go in and pinpoint those exact emotions and release them.
Wow. Do you know, I love that, because a lot of that is what I've been dealing with as a being, as an individual. And I did not know that about you before we had, organized
Okay.
an interview.
Yeah.
And interesting, I refer to myself as an indigo. I was born in 1977, and I was born into a lot of density. And I was aware that, I did create like this heart wall.
Yeah.
When you're saying it, I call it like a block, but like a heart
Yeah.
wall, which kept me sort of disconnected from, humans really, and
Yeah.
groups, and even family, and because it was just too intense to be
Yeah.
with them. And I'm aware now that that was partly because we were vibrationally very different, like, very far apart, but also
Yeah.
like what I brought in karmically as what had happened. So that is, I love this. This is good. So what can people expect if they come for a session with you? Like, what would that look like?
Well, I can do them face to face, but I can also do them remotely online, so I can reach anyone anywhere in the world. So they would either come online. I would just basically give them a little explanation. It's a very gentle technique, so it's not that we're reliving trauma or past events or anything, because I'm just releasing the emotions attached to those events. And it's a very gentle process. I use kinesiology, which is muscle testing, to pinpoint exact yes and no answers. Then I use the release part, I use magnets. So the magnets are swiped from the bottom of the neck to the bottom of the spine along the main meridian. And as in acupuncture, that's the main energy channel. So what I'm doing is releasing all the dense negative energy so that your own innate healing energy can come through. Yeah, and it's a very gentle process. So it's not like a massive explosion and leaves you sort of, all over the place. It's very gentle. And as you just go on through the process throughout the week, because I do a follow-up the next week to see if anything's changed or you've noticed anything. And people just start to notice that they feel a lot lighter, calmer, they're not bothered about things, and then as time goes on, life just gets better. They just notice different changes, they're more upbeat, opportunities are coming their way. So it's really interesting.
Wow, I love this, because that
Yeah.
I'm also an acupuncturist, and I love the
Yeah.
way that you're using magnets to release these kind of emotions that cause not a lot of people realize that emotions cause blocks in their
Yeah.
body, you know, and make them
Yeah.
sick if they're
Yeah.
not flowing properly. You know, emotions are vital. We need them. They are
Yeah.
an energy source for us, but they need to flow and not get
Yes.
blocked. So I,
And be released. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And do you feel like people come out of your sessions, how do you think they feel when, you know, kind of saying they feel lighter? Do they notice any other kind of benefits to having a session with you?
Yeah, so people, like, when I'm actually going through the release, I mean, they will have to face those sort of emotions that are coming up. So, you know, they might cry during the release, or they just might, over the next few days, I always say to them, look, you might feel a bit down, or you might feel a bit off, but that's just everything processing. So that because your body's just shifting and changing, because it's let go of this stuff that's been there for years. So it's getting used to not having it, and then all your energy flowing through your body. So it's gonna, you know, like when you do a detox, you feel a bit rough before you feel better.
Yeah.
So they go through that. But yeah, people during the actual release, people have felt the energy and the warmth coming through, because what I also do is I will place my hand over their heart space after the release and during the release to pump in the healing Reiki energy. So as it's being released, the negative energy is coming out, and then the loving energy is going back in.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
they feel a warmth, they feel light, they can feel tingles. It just depends, because everybody's so different, and every session is just so unique, because it's just, and I learn so much from every person that comes to me, because I'm like, wow, that never happened before. You know, so yeah,
And
it's just really lovely.
Melanie, you can do this over Zoom as well. You can like
Yeah,
use the
remotely.
quantum and do it that way.
Yeah. So what I do, I tap into the person's energy field, because we have this, everything is energy, and there's this energy field out there that we're all connected to. So I literally tap into their energy field, and then answer the questions on myself,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then do the release on myself. So it's like I become the person for a short time.
And do you know, I'm hearing this more and more, and I have a little anecdote about this for anyone who's questioning whether it works over Zoom. Is that I had my own acupuncturist that I saw for years up where I used to live, and then when I had to move, we used to do it over Zoom, and she didn't have to put the needles in. She just felt it on her body, and then I would feel it on my body, and she'd just breathe it through.
Yeah,
And this is the magic of
it
working
is.
in you know, in energy, because it
Yeah,
doesn't need any specific space or location. You know,
yeah,
it's sort of limitless in that way, and it does
yeah.
work. It's just
Yeah,
incredible.
and what I noticed over the lockdown is that as part of the emotion code, they do teach you that to do it remotely, but I was still doing it face to face. And because of lockdown, I was nicely forced, to do it online, because I was like, and then I was just started doing more and more online, and it was just as effective, if not even more, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh my gosh, I can actually reach more people and be more effective. So
Yeah.
you could be anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter. You're still going to feel it.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, I think the kind of forced lockdown has really has
Yeah.
really done two things. Like, people have gone into real creativity, like they're finding their creative power. And I think the
Yeah.
healers, the psychics, the mediums have realized we can do it over Zoom. Like, we don't
Yeah.
we don't need to be in the same
Yeah.
room. And
Yeah.
for me, as like an empath, I'm very, very empathic. Actually being in my own space and working with someone remotely has been a real blessing for me, and I didn't have to do the traveling and all the things that would
Yeah.
drain my
Yeah.
energy.
And yeah. And
Yeah,
so you're not having to pay for a space to meet someone, travel. It's just like, and you
exactly.
can do it in your own time. Yeah.
Yeah,
And reach more people, which is, I think, at this time in what's going on in the world, more people are going to need this type of healing.
absolutely, absolutely. And there might be someone like who needs you, and they live in Hawaii or South Africa or wherever it is, and they can still access you and,
Yeah.
you know, what you can give them. And I
Yeah,
think it's just
definitely.
beautiful.
It is. It is.
um, so And on that note, I would say I think that was part of the divine plan as well. You know, there seems to be more connection at a local level of people with hearts connecting, like in person. And then there's this wider web being created where we don't have to be in the same time or space, you know, and that for me is amazing because we're moving into the fifth dimension, which is we move out of the fourth dimension of time into the fifth dimension where we don't have to actually be physically in the same space. We can be in many spaces. So I think it's amazing synchronicity that has gone on, even though, you know, the governmental powers and things did it for one other reason, but it's a bit like it's being used in this really beautiful creative way by the light workers.
Definitely. Yeah.
I know. So Melanie, do you use some sort of ability to do this work? Like you kind of refer to yourself as a healer and a guide. Are you psychic or clairvoyant or intuitive? Like what would you call yourself?
I wouldn't say I'm psychic, even though I have had moments where I've seen things and it's like had dreams and they've come true, like, you know, that kind of thing. But I would say I'm clairaudient. So I pick up things like, and I also know, like I have a deep sense of knowing, and the empathy comes in as well. And it's like, I just know, like, and I've always had this, but I was unconscious of it. So I can just look at someone and I know what their problem is and what's going on with them. But then I had to learn not to tell people that. Like I had situations where I'd be like, you know, blah, 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 and it's like they weren't ready to hear that. So I had to learn to not pass that information on. But yeah, so it's a mixture of everything, really.
Yeah, well, when I met you, we met at a friend's blessing way, didn't we? And when I met you, I had a very strong, I guess, clairvoyant perception of you, a vision of you in the temples of Lemuria, and it was obviously this healing energy was so strong with you, you know, and I think that's why we were kind of magnetically attracted to one another in that situation, and I do feel like it is part of a learning journey we all go through, is that if you've had many lifetimes with a natural ability and training and, you know, working, you know, a lot of people worked in the mystery schools and then you incarnate back into earth and you have all that ability, it's a bit like, oh, I've got it, it's there, but other people aren't on that track, you know, they're, you know, a lot of people are just working in the material field.
That's too much for people.
Too much, yeah. And I think lots of people have to learn that, and it's sort of, you know, we have to go through that. Well, how can we still be in integrity with who we are, but also meet people at a level which isn't
where they're at,
that isn't imposing on their free will, or, you know, because it's a really interesting process, and not one that people talk about much. But I know about it because I come from a family of clairvoyants and mediums who just they used to just go up to people and just go blah 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 blah. And you know, like anybody like a waitress or a person in a shop, or like with no permission asked, and I would be a kid and a young person like watching this play out, and sadly they would get a lot of rejection from people. You know, they're like, whoa, what's going on here? And understandably so. And so it was in my awareness as I was growing up and developing my abilities that I need to learn how to do this in a safe way, like the way that fits in with humanity, the where it's at now, and also that respects and honors me and my gift.
And also you mentioned about permission, like you have to get the person's permission. Like I can't just go in and do this without someone's permission, because it could unleash stuff that they're not ready for, and then you're going down a really dangerous path. So I only do this like if I have the person's permission, you know. I don't go around doing this willy-nilly.
No, I understand. And also, you know, I was aware of that. We can create karma for ourselves by, you know, by not respecting boundaries and understanding that there is an energetic boundary, and we do have to seek permission and be invited in. And And actually, I do these card readings occasionally for people. Like globally, I have a little Etsy shop which I do on the side, and I get the amount of people who ask me to look into somebody else's life.
Yeah.
Whether it's their whoever it is, it can sometimes be their own children or whatever. And I always say, well, actually, we cannot do that without their permission. Are you willing to seek their permission before we do this?
Yeah.
I think it's just a reminder to everyone, to act in integrity, around this thing, because
Definitely.
yeah.
Because
So
there are people out there that do have abilities and they don't use it for the good. They use it for their self or to gain material things, and no, it's not about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that point, it took me a while to understand that actually everyone's spiritual, but some people use it for light intention and some people don't. It all comes from your intention, doesn't it? How we're using it. And I know lots and lots of incredibly psychic people who wouldn't say they were psychic, but they use it in their work. They use it in business, they use it, and they're not always using it for a healthy reason. They can use it to manipulate people, or that is the shadow side of this sort of ability, isn't it?
It is. And that's something that I because I meet a lot of people that are on their healing journeys, and I always say to them, you have to be very discerning about who you work with.
Absolutely.
Do your homework, find out who they are, where they're at, and also, personal recommendation is always the best. Like if someone's had a session and they're saying this is really good, that's always good. But some people go looking in the wrong places and it can sort of get a bit dark,
Yeah, absolutely. And to be aware of it and to teach people to be aware, like they would if they bought a car, or I don't know, anything you do in life, it's the same. Just because people have an ability doesn't mean they're using it in a healthy way. So this is about learning up for us to trust the difference and what feels good.
And also what I've found is anything that I've done, any kind of healing or courses or training, it's always come to me. I've said, right, I want to do this, and then it's always turned up. Like I've never had to go looking, so I always I always say, if it's meant for me, it will come to me, and it always does.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you. So did you always know that you had this gift, like from a young age, or did you know you had this ability? It kind of sounds like you did.
Yeah, well, there are clues. Like I wasn't consciously aware of it, as but as a child, or even a youngster and teenager, I was the one that everyone came to for advice. I was the one that adults would come and just start speaking all their personal business, and I would actually say, do I have "I'll help you" written on my forehead? Because it was literally strangers would open up to me and just start telling me really personal stuff, and then when I would give people advice, it would just fly out my mouth. I don't even know half the time where it came from. They would take it, and then their lives would change, and they would come back years later and say, oh, you know what, you told me this and I'll never forget because it changed my life. And I'm like, I don't know what I said to you.
I'm getting tingles just as you're saying that. It's like they just feel it in your field. It's just it's just the sort of, it's a bit like you would have been the healer in the tribe, like people.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then just going along in life, certain things would happen, and I would sense it before it happened. Or so looking back now, because I know what I now know about myself, I had to honor those gifts and learn them and train them and use them for the good. But now I know, I did have them back then, but I just didn't know I had them.
Yeah, because it was naturally a part of who you were. Who you are. What you yeah. So let's have a think here. So you've obviously got a lot of experience, and I just wonder if you have any tools or tips or suggestions for people who are very sensitive and maybe starting to work with energy? Or do you have anything that you could offer to help people with their well-being or keeping them safe on this journey?
Yeah, you have to, like I said before, you have to be very discerning. You have to put in boundaries, because you're giving off all this light and all this energy, and people they're attracted to that, but they might drain your energy. Like, there's something called psychic vampires. Like, people will suck your energy, and you just feel at the end, like, there's some people you come across, and after you've had a conversation with them, you go away with headaches, you feel drained, it takes time. Like, that used to happen to me all the time, where literally I would have to go and lie down for like 2 days to get over it. And so what I had to learn was to put up the boundaries and honor my time and fill myself back up, and just give a little bit of yourself, not just be this open channel that everybody can live off of.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And I love that, because
Yeah.
I have a group called Spiritual Empaths on Facebook, and obviously empath is the word that most people use now for this sort of being able to feel and connect. And
Yeah.
I always think, well, if we were all empaths, then the world would look really different, because we would know the impact of having, like unhealthy thoughts or emotions or stuck energy, because we all feel it.
Yeah.
And we'd all want to heal it. But there's a lot of people who are not programmed this way. They have disconnected emotionally and disconnected from their own ability to relate to us in this way. And I do think this is a human gift, like our hearts somehow relate to one another, and we create a field of relationship. And then in that relationship, we sort of feed back to one another, and we're doing this all the time. But when people have disconnected, from their ability to connect with that and feel it, it's like they're blocked. And so on one level, they're really attracted to, the light, what they can feel from empaths. Because they want it. I think they genuinely want reconnection, but then they're also rejecting it in the same way that they reject their own emotion around it. So I think we're in a really weird time on Earth, because I think it's as much as 50% of people are rejecting their emotions, in the modern world. And then you've got all these empaths trying to bring back this field of connection, which is very natural and normal to us.
That's interesting.
Okay, so what do you have any other tools you want to share, or are you
I think that's it, really. It's just protecting yourself and taking time out for yourself, and that whole self-love thing. Like, on my Instagram, I do this thing, Self-Love Saturday, because it's so important. Because a lot of people think that, to take time out for yourself, if you're a busy mum or you got all this stuff going on, any situation, that you're being selfish and it's a negative thing. But it's like, no, you need to take that time out. You need to honor yourself. You need to recharge yourself. You need to do something fun, and it's not selfish. Like, it's survival. It's like, you need it. You need it. Just having that relaxing bath, just going in there for an hour and just really sort of just coming down from the day, going off, getting your hair done without the kids or without your partner, or without, even if you have a business, or you're, it's not, you don't even have to have kids. You're just constantly focusing on this business. It's like, no, take time out from it, recharge, go back in, because you can't run on empty.
That's true. It's like filling your own cup. Fill your own cup first.
You have to
give. And well, it sounds like you've given us some words of wisdom, but do you have any other words of wisdom for our listeners that they can take with them today?
I always just say to people, follow your heart. Do not listen to the naysayers. Do not listen to society, what society tells you, because there's all these rules and these regulations, and you should be doing it this way and you should be doing it that way. But I think I've always followed my heart, and if people that know me, like they will realize I've done some very interesting things in my life, because I've never thought I can't do that, or no, you know, it's like, so I would just follow my heart and trust the inner guidance, like 100% trust it, because it will never ever take you down the wrong path, you know. And you have to build that trust, because it takes time, but when you 100% fully connect with that, that's where the magic happens. Yeah.
Perfect. So Melanie, how can our listeners find you if they want to work with you or find out more about what you do?
Yeah, well, I'm hanging out on Instagram a lot lately. So I am at Healer Coach Guide, all one lowercase, and also at my website, melaniehenry.co.uk. So you can send me an email there, or yeah, come and find me on Instagram, because I'm having fun with that at the moment.
I will. I'm going to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is kind of wrapping up our interview for today, but I can tell there is so much more that we could share in the future. So I hope you'll come back on another time, and we can
Yeah, I'd love to.
pick
I'd love
another
to.
topic to discuss. But
Yeah.
thank you for being here, and it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Oh, and you too. Thank you so much. And I'm glad I met you the other day. And that's the magic happening there. I went to a friend's blessing, and then this happened.
I know, and it was a blessing for both of us. Yay!
Yeah, yeah, definitely.